So an impromptu video today is an update from the previous video that we did, and despite that it massively flopped, and it was really disappointing and disheartening because we had a video, it was the best video I've ever done in terms of stuff on the channel, and people really seemed to enjoy it, and then the views just completely went off a cliff. It's like nobody cares about stuff happening within the game industry, unfortunately. And that's kind of what I wanted to, have this channel about, speaking out about kind of stuff, But here's the thing. There's an update to the story. So, I'm making this video anyway, So all I will say is it makes such a difference to the video with word of mouth and people share stuff, because it brings it to the attention of more people. Because unfortunately, my social media's, most people don't interact or care with what I post anyway, and it's a really big struggle to get people to care about the things that I try to say on a regular basis. So any way that you possibly could do to help that in like signal boosting, it may not seem that you're appreciated, but it goes a long way. Anyway, for those who did watch it, I very much appreciate you taking the time to do so. After this one, I don't know when my next upload will be, but I have an idea, and it'll probably be a longish video again, but it'll be a very serious one, arguably the most serious one I've actually ever made. So we're going down the route of talking about companies more for a bit. So let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. Activision Blizzard boss Bobby Kotick saw last month's video and thought, Jesus Christ, this charismatic Brit is going to take down my company from the outside with PR. Hence the decision that's been made. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. I just wanted to say, I've since learnt that 200 million obviously was an estimate, so that's why I didn't run with it with the title. I let other people speculate about it, and the point of the video was that it was bad that, a CEO who just oversees things and doesn't work particularly hard. I'm sorry, but it is not hard work to exploit people for financial gain, ladies and gentlemen. But he was going to get potentially 200 million while simultaneously they were firing people. And I found that particularly disgusting. That was the whole, formula of the last video. Now, it has come to my attention that the 200 million was apparently in shares, so he wouldn't have that 200 million directly. It would be, given to him through increased ownership of shares, but he's already one of the biggest owners of Activision, which is why he's worth a billionaire. And I know what people say, where it's like, yeah, he doesn't have the money right now, so he's technically not a billionaire, but he could sell Activision or his shares at Activision at any point and become one of the richest people in the US. And he is effectively paying himself. So yeah, personally, I do not think it's a win, really, because this is still a man who will continue to exploit the labour of his workers. And I think if you're somebody who cares about workers' rights, as I do, it's funny to think back, I didn't care at all until I was personally exploited. It's a shame that it took me having to experience that for me to start trying to get a better understanding about this kind of thing. But we can all be ignorant about stuff. But yeah, I don't consider this a win, because it's not like they're doing anything at all to make the people who work for them have better opportunities at all, or increase pay for anyone working under the stress of the pandemic, because now they would be crunching hard, right, on Call of Duty every fucking year, and then having to take the work home as well. And what that doesn't take into account is something that people are ignorant about as well. Working from home and that work-life divide, when that is eroded, it is very bad for your mental health, and you can struggle to concentrate because you're not in your usual working environment, and you have all these other distractions than you would have normally at work, and productivity can potentially be harmed by that, right? And the expectation could be potentially that you would crunch even more, because now you don't even have to travel into work. You are consistently surrounded by your workplace apparatus, effectively, you know? And bearing in mind, Activision, just like EA, have the habit of taking studios that make different things, and admittedly this is just a rumour, but this isn't a new phenomenon, so I personally tend credence into it, but the people behind the 4th Crash Bandicoot game are potentially being moved to work on a Call of Duty project. Now imagine that for a second, that you're going from a platforming game into a first-person shooter. They aren't similar at all. The only thing similar in those games is probably the, monetization method. That's probably about the only thing that they have similar. And maybe they don't even have that. I haven't seen much of it. I do know that Crash Team Racing, Activision are sneaky bastards. I just want to point this out to kind of point out how they will play with public perception. They waited until they got good reviews for that game before shoving microtransactions in later, before people could warn the public about it. But yeah, imagine that. You're having to learn an entirely new genre of game after making a game that was good for most people. That must suck. A lot of those people may not even want to do that. They've had no choice. They've been pushed on something that they won't find creatively fulfilling, and that makes the crunch even worse when it's not fulfilling. So yeah, I just thought I'd put that point in there. Activision Blizzard boss Bobby Kotick has accepted a 50% pay cut to his base salary, but he could still earn millions of dollars in bonuses, and given the amount of money that they earn in microtransactions, I would assume that he would earn said bonuses. But a recent investor filing revealed Kotick has extended his employment agreement to the 31st of March 2023, but with a significant base salary pay cut. He was previously earning $1.75 million a year from his base salary. Now he will earn $875,000. I mean, you may celebrate this as a win, but when he earns so much shares and is an owner of Activision Blizzard, it's not like he needs the money. So I can't imagine there'll be anyone out there that feels bad for him. It would be stupid. He could really give away this charity. He could work for free. He could give away this money to charity every year, and it would not affect him materially one bit or another. At any moment he could sell his share in the company and become extremely rich, even more so than he already is. He's also agreed to reduce his target annual bonus by 50%, which is a potential reduction of $1.75 million for each of the 2021 and 2022 fiscal years. However, under the new agreement, Kotick can still earn an annual bonus of up to 200% of his base salary. Assuming he meets certain targets, that's potential of $1.75 million on top of the $875,000 a year. Notice how that said each though, so it'll be a reduction of 1.75 for each of the 2021 and 2022 years, but potentially if he makes certain targets, he will get 1.75 million of that back. So, it's fine for him. It's, damage limitation, if you will. Now, there's a little tidbit here about the this is at this point I learned that it was 200 million in a stock bonus. That's how usually bonus is handed out. I will be honest, I'm a little bit ignorant, having not, ever seen anywhere near that amount of money, and not being knowledgeable about, the higher ups in this industry, that I didn't know it was usually given out in like stock bonuses. I will be perfectly honest with you there. It is a regular thing. What I do find delicious about this story is that it's always kept so quiet at the top, because even they know it's a bad look to talk about how much the people at the top of the economy or whatever, you know, those with substantial power just due to the amount of money that they earn, how they just get very uncomfortable when these topics are discussed. That's why Activision didn't really say anything about it when I had covered the story, and now they've come out and said the total amount has yet to be decided, and when it is decided they will do everything they possibly can to keep that quiet, because obviously, you know, this is maybe giving them good PR. I mean, it's designed to, but obviously people are still going to be critical of him, you know, just due for the reason people will be, and there'll be voices within the industry that bring attention to this kind of thing, and you know, they are very valuable indeed, because usually a lot of the mainstream gaming press don't talk about this thing, and now it's becoming a thing that they're talking about it. So, you know, those who put the work in beforehand have a lot to take credit for. But after this filing, anyway, the pay cut, Activision's board actually came out and said something. So they said Kotick's new pay packet reflects shareholder feedback. Now, if we unpick that, people obviously didn't like the idea, they didn't like the story that he was going to get this huge bonus, and they've just gone, right, well, let's stop that for good PR. This is a PR move. They've even said it's reflecting to feedback. How often does a company reflect to feedback? Not very often. So this is quite clear a PR move. It incorporates market best practices and continues to directly connect pay to performance. I mean, that last one's a little bit strange, because if we're going off that completely 100% true, then he would be getting a pay rise. As much as I hate to admit it, you know, Activision are doing incredibly well based on microtransactions, you know. So if they are 100% serious about directly connecting pay to performance, he would get endless bonuses and endless pay rises, unfortunately. The board also stressed that under Kotick, Activision Blizzard's market capitalization has increased from less than 10 million to over 70 billion, with an 8,100% increase in shareholder return between 2000 and 2020. I suddenly forgot how to read years then in between that. That's a big percentage. Imagine some guy buying shares in Activision as a meme in like 2000. Imagine that, and selling them now. Jesus Christ. But yeah, it has to be said, like, you know, I mentioned in the previous video, he took a company that was floundering and made it arguably the biggest in the world in the gaming space. But at that same time, how much does he actually do now? And why he might have oversaw that, it was a large work of, you know, releasing so many successful games over the years that has allowed them to grow. And then now, obviously, yes, they are incredibly successful, and it's partly down to him, but they're incredibly successful because of immoral monetization, effectively. So it's one of those that it's like, can you really take credit? Well, you can take credit for being a greedy bastard. I would suggest, you know, being a greedy bastard in the boardroom space is encouraged. So fair enough then. But to everyone else, it is just grotesque, isn't it? We got a little bit of numbers here, which would have been very useful in the last video. The company recently crowed that cash cow Call of Duty Warzone has 100 million players, and the Call of Duty series has sold over 400 million copies. Activision Blizzard's better than expected 2020 revenue was 8.09 billion, up from 6.49 billion for 2019. So it was a huge rise. Now, that's probably due to the fact most people were playing at home or stuck at home playing stuff at some point during the year worldwide. It could drop down of that, we don't know. It would be intriguing if they continue to grow. that would be mind-boggling, effectively. But I mean, with Warzone, that was a godsend for them, because people were having COD fatigue, and now they know that the area where they'll make probably most of their money isn't the actual selling of games. So if they make a free-to-play, they can justify the expenditure on microtransactions, because in the mind of people doing it, people be like, well, this game's free, so I should support the devs or whatever. And you're never supporting the devs. You're supporting the people who, you know, hoard the wealth at the top. Unless it's an indie game. That would be the only time that you would be supporting that. And of course, then they get to dip their toe in with the yearly Call of Duty release, and then the microtransactions that come in from that as well. But at some point, Warzone will die off. Even Fortnite isn't the same thing it used to be. But I mean, I'm sure they'll start making games again. I don't like the idea that they're just going to like have people stop making games and then just focusing on Call of Duty. Because I mean, at some point the bubble will burst. Not to the point where nobody buys it anymore, but it'll stop being as successful. This was something so we're going to finish up with something that I actually missed previously. But Activision Blizzard warned staff of impending layoffs across its offices in Europe. So they're closing all its publishing offices in Europe as part of a reorganisation which will see business centralised within one hub in the UK. I want to say that's because the UK has slightly lower corporation tax than Europe, but I don't know. I know Ireland has very low corporation tax. That's why a lot of companies like to move there. And staff, including those in the UK, have been told their jobs are now at risk and could face redundancy after a consultation period. And it's affecting Activision Blizzard's publishing operation, not its development, live operations, and customer support teams. Candy Crush maker King's European offices are said to be unaffected. I mean, even now, you know, you just saw how much money they made, right? And they're still, like, you know, streamlining things to maximize every available dollar that they could possibly make. And this is what they had to say about it. Players are increasingly choosing to connect with our games digitally. Well, they had no choice last year. They literally had no choice. We shared plans with our teams in Europe for how we would evolve as an organisation, adapting to this change to serve our players and best positioning in the region for future growth. We'll be taking extensive steps to support all employees and ease the transition for those of our colleagues who might be impacted by the proposed changes. Serve our players, my arse. Do you know, I honestly would have more respect if they just said, well, I mean, having offices costs money, and there's a market trend of people buying games more digitally, so that's why we've done that. If they left it as that first bit about more people are playing digitally, so we're just getting ahead of the curve, fine. At least you would have been honest. This whole idea that you're doing it for the players is bullshit. I hope they don't give out fucking gift cards again. So on that, those workers who obviously were fired due to the live events and esports section that we were talking about in the last video, they also got job transition support. I can't tell you what that is because, you know, you'd have to ask somebody who's received on the end of it. I would like to think it's probably, you know, helping them join to another company in the industry, but, you know, the industry is very cutthroat and competitive, so it'll be a struggle. And there's also this part of me that will think, like, you know, they will do the minimum, really. They won't go out of their way to help people. But at the same time, while they're firing people from various facets of the company, they expect to hire 3,000 people this year in production and development. So that would make it seem that they are going to be making more games. And they might as well, because it just seems mortgaging yourself to like 1 or 2 games as a company. It seems stupid, even to someone like me. But yeah, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this video. I thought I'd give an update. This update seems to have been even longer than the previous video, but I have stuff to say about it. I mentioned it in the intro, but to those of you who watched, I very much appreciate it. If you could like signal boost it, you know, this is just a gentle reminder. I'd very much appreciate it, you know. Also, feel free to share your opinions on Activision. I want to say I have a memory of them publishing True Crime Streets of New York City, which was a banger on a PS2. So they did used to publish some really good games outside of Call of Duty. So if they do that, you know, they would get some positive PR if they're making good games, really, aren't they? Sekiro got them, you know, good PR. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you join me in the next video.